Welcome to Kier's Kingdom Connection, featuring
my dad, Reggie Key, and
my dad, Kier Hopkins Smith.
Here we are. We find ourselves again, Kier's Kingdom Connection, with our man, Alec Foreman, as a special guest. Alec, you did it again. You done made it back to the forum. We had a really good conversation about 2 weeks ago, right after Father. It was the week after Father's Day Sunday, I believe, or either leading into it. Yep. And we missed the mark. We gotta be more diligent about these special times and having themes for our podcast. But I'm glad that I talked to Alec, because he came up with something that I want us to talk about today as it relates to being a father. And it's kind of obvious what it is that we are supposed to be doing, but it's good to hear models of what it looks like when we are father figured, when what we do, when what we model is seen by our children and reflected in them, because that's our main goal. Yeah. That's the thing that we should be doing. Jesus even said in John 5:19, I only do what I see my Father doing. Amen. And so we have to be very intentional about what it is that our kids see us doing and how they model it.
Sure. Yep. 100%. And we, I think I notice a lot, sometimes like, oh, I see them doing the bad things that I do. Right. Like stop yelling at the TV when my team doesn't score a touchdown or an interception. And you're like, no, I don't do I really do that? Your reflection of who you are is really multiplied in your kids.
Yes, it
is. You
is.
really see, wow, is that who I really am? And it's sometimes it can be scary, but sometimes it can be really cool. Like we were talking a couple weeks ago, we're at a football game. My sons are playing flag football, and coaching flag football is tough because everybody's a volunteer. You're not paid, and
Right.
You're coaching your kids as well as other kids that you just get to meet for a couple weeks, and it's a hard atmosphere. But even in that atmosphere, there's a huge opportunity to impact kids' lives that they may never receive at home. Mm-hmm. And what I saw in that football field was the opposite of that. I saw a coach who berated his son after a missed throw and a missed opportunity. The first throw, it was okay. He didn't really say anything, but it moved 3 plays later. He laid into him in front of everybody. And instantly you saw the kid become dejected or rejected, and body language, put his head down, sulked, and walked away. And I think me and the parents on the sideline all were kind of looking at each other like, oh man, I hate that. Like you don't want to see a kid feel that way about himself. Like it's flag football, man. Right. And you got kids, and they're 7 and 8, so they're all rushing at each other. They don't even have their full motor skills yet. Yeah. Like you expecting him to be Lamar Jackson? Come on, bro. Like it's 8 years old, so half of them can barely catch. So anyway, something I started doing, and I've got to admit, I was maybe there might have been a little bit of I was trying to get the coach to hear me. Mm-hmm. Because I wanted him to see how it should be done. Sure. Not that I know what I'm doing, but I just felt if he's going to do that, I'm going to make those kids feel it the other way. So I started just yelling across the field, hey, red cleats, great run, man, good job. And then my son would say, Dad, he's on the other team. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm encouraging everybody. This one kid had this really nice run down the sideline. I forgot to tell you all this. And he was flying. And I was like, go, buddy, go, go, go. And he's like, Dad, I'm trying to catch him. It was like, as it's going, he's like, Dad, I want to catch him. And I'm like, it's okay. I said, you did great too. And I'm trying to encourage him. So I'm yelling encouragement all game. The very next game, Indy is in a football game.
This work is good.
And his teammate catches a pass and then runs to the right side, because they're switching and things. And I saw Indy. He goes up to her and he says, Hey, Riley, that was amazing. You did awesome. That was such a great run. And then I was like, whoa. I'm like, good job, Indy. That's really cool.
And to be clear, Indy is your younger son.
The second younger son. Yeah, he's my 6-year-old going on 7. And then later, and he continues that through the whole entire game, encouraging even the coaches. He's like, hey, coach, good job, coach. The coach kind of looking at him like, and what I realized was he saw me doing it in the first game. And when I was like, he's like, Dad, that's not my team. But then he doubled up on it, and he was doing it himself to his teammates. And I told him after the game, I said, buddy, I've never been more proud of you than any other time. I said, you could have scored a touchdown, intercepted it, and made a great play, but I'm more proud of you for encouraging your teammates and being who God would have wanted you to do. I said, God is very proud of you, and I just want you to know so am I.
Yeah.
And as a father, man, I'm like, that was a feel good moment. I said, all my bads are washed away. That one felt good.
Yeah.
Like I did something right there. Maybe it was accidentally, but and talking about what you guys want, modeling what Christ desires for us to be in our kids, and take it away from there. So.
Yeah, the minute that you said that, it's a spark kind of went off like, oh, we got something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, let's talk about this some more, because to your point, a lot of times it's not just the youth who've never seen fatherhood modeled correctly. It's the grown men. It's the grown women who have never seen it modeled correctly. And so, you know what? Yesterday when we were talking, on our weekly
Tuesday night
Bible studies,
Zoom Bible studies,
8:30 to 10 o'clock.
8:30 to 10 o'clock.
One of the guys, he don't get the joke. He's looking at us like, why are you? We do this every time. We just make sure to promote
shameless
every
plug.
time.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. We don't got no plugs.
Yeah.
No, they shameless. So,
ball life for life, baby. Ball life for life.
But check it. What happened last night?
I'm getting there. I'm right behind you guys.
Hey man, we got the razors for you when you're ready.
Let's go.
When you ready.
One of our men was saying that he's at work. He's very much an outward Christian, and he encountered another Christian who's like the exact opposite. And he said that what he did was he didn't berate her, but he kind of questioned her and challenged her, like, "Why aren't you more whatever?" And she was like, "That's just not what I do." She put it on her denomination. Right. And what I told our friend was, I was like, "Well, you don't have to keep questioning her. Just keep modeling. Just keep doing what you do." And not, you're not trying to do it intentionally, like, oh, she here, and then put on airs. He just naturally effervesces Christ. Right. And I'm like, if you just keep doing that, maybe she's never seen it modeled before. Right.
That's good.
Maybe she did do it, and somebody hurt her at work or shunned her, and she feels like it's not the right place. But when she sees you do it, she's like, you know what? That's the model that I want.
That's good.
That's maybe if I do it with him, we can shift the atmosphere, and whatever she encountered, whatever she didn't encounter, now is behind her, because what's in front of her is a model that she can then emulate.
Right, and that's good, man. I mean, when you sit back and you look at this, you talk about being father figured, and you're right. Grown men who did not grow up with seeing fathering done. The balance of right and wrong. Right? It's healthy and unhealthy, right? It's just making sure it's a healthy balance of fathering. And I definitely have seen my testimony. I was not raised with healthy fathering. Father left when I was 6, and I had 2 abusive stepfathers, so I didn't see it growing up. But my heart, my mind was so far on I do not want this to happen for my children so much that all I did was took all their negatives and I said, I'm going to do the exact opposite of what I see. But then it was the introduction of the Word of God that began to really help me to be able to take in the principles so that I can see fathering well. Mm-hmm. And one of those principles of father figuring that really blew me away is the tribal mentality. It's we don't raise our children by ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you got the children of Israel, fam, they was a people. They were a people. And as being God's chosen people, they were a people together. And that means that our sons need to not only see us fathering, but they also need to see other fathers fathering.
Yep.
They need to see other sons sonning. Right? They need to see it. And if they see it as a healthy conglomerate, then it doesn't become this, and as good as we want it to be, it can become an isolated thing.
Very much so.
It can become an isolated thing, right? Where it's just me. And it's like, no, I need you to see the healthiness of a group of people doing it well. And bro, and I love that, man, because when you did that, you sowed something, and you sowed something into a field. That field looked ugly because you had somebody who was already trying to sow tares. Here you come sowing wheat, right? The wheat and the tare got to grow up together, but you sowed the wheat, and you had a young person, your son, see it, and then he took it and multiplied that thing. Yeah. And then with it being multiplied, others got a chance to see it. Not only the father, but the son doing it. The coach get a chance to see it. The other kids get a chance to see it. And now they're going to be like, well, heck, that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it creates an atmosphere of these kind of figuring. And bro, that's very, very powerful, because if we do it and do it well, we can literally terraform whole neighborhoods, structures, and peoples.
That's what the kingdom is supposed to do. It is a seed that's supposed to come into the earth and advance and spread. And like, I like the word you use, terraform.
Terraform,
You speak
baby.
my language, you say
Terraform. I love the word
Just
terraform.
terraform the earth, because the earth is out of pocket. Yeah, and you just have to make sure that the whole purpose of the Garden of Eden, it was meant to spread and envelop the whole earth. But then sin came in and messed that plan up, and now we're in the aftermath of that. But we're course correcting, and we're doing this process all over again. And it's good that we go back to that, because y'all have said multiplying twice now. That's what our mandate still is. Be fruitful, multiply, replenish, and subdue. What are we multiplying?
Yes.
We're multiplying the image and likeness of God on the earth.
That's right. Amen.
And he is a father, and he's a good father at that. And in our flawed state, we got this sin right here that kind of in our flesh that kind of messes us up. But we still have the mindset. You know, when you model behavior, one of the things that I've been very intentional about doing, especially with my son who's now 15, is to model apologizing. Hey, I did you wrong. Oh, I did that wrong. He texted me the other day. I was texting him something about taking care of his car. I took a screenshot of something and I sent it to him. He's in Colombia right now, and he replied back. He's like, "Hey, Dad, were you driving when you took that screenshot?" Because he saw my GPS thing. and I was like, "Dang it, he got me." I was like, "What?" And my first thought was, "Why didn't I crop that out? I should have known better." I was driving. I couldn't crop it out, but he caught me though, and I was just like.
Oh
my
gosh, real talk.
He's like, you should drive more carefully, Dad. We talked about this too.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. I was like, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so just being able to cop to it and be like, yeah, I don't always get it right, but I course correct, because we try to model our best, but you know, when people are in our house, they're gonna see the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
And knowing how to respond to that.
100%, dude. So one of the things that, and this actually will tag team with our previous series, Better Recall Saul.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the issues with pride as it creeps in, and one of the reasons that I think it is very important to model, I love what you just said, forgiveness and like apologizing. Like, dude, I know a lot of instances where I've heard conversations and I've been in conversations, and I'm like, I appreciate what you said, but that wasn't an apology. And my wife has said that to me when I am wrestling with taking ownership and owning my mistake, owning my fault, and saying, that is 100% on me.
100% right.
You did nothing wrong, that's on me, and I'm sorry.
Right.
Because I created the toxic atmosphere that allowed us to get into a fight, or that allowed us, and 100%, bro, enough real men can do that. Yeah. They can learn, because they understand the humility that I am faultless, or that I am at fault without Christ. Like, that pride creeps in, and I'm strong, and I don't have to apologize because, oh, bro, that's manly. That's tough. Yeah. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna apologize. That's the toxic mess. That's really real toxic. Toxic masculinity.
Part of the
not the toxic masculinity. Some of y'all catching on The View. That ain't toxic masculinity. That's just people being strong.
Right.
But that is toxic masculinity. That does not know how to come to your kid and say, man, guys, daddy handled that wrong. Mm-hmm. And I hope that you, while you saw my mistake, you see me better, also coming to you and saying, man, I'm sorry, I should have handled that better. Yeah. And that's huge. That's huge, man, for fatherhood. I love you.
And bro, when you're saying that, when it comes to toxic masculinity, right, and how it's been twisted and perverted, because now it's anything that's masculine is considered toxic.
Yeah, right, leadership.
Right? Anything that's toxic.
100%.
Anything that's masculine is toxic. We're not gonna do that, because toxic means it's poisonous. And when something is poisonous, either one, the poison has to be drawn out, or there's an antidote that has to be given.
Come on.
To counteract the poison, right? So either one has got to be drawn out, or two, an antidote has to be given. And so if we can be willing to give the antidote, like you said, with one, apologizing to your child, you know, and obviously there's a balance in everything, right? Because there are times I've had to deal with my children where there was something that they considered dad to be wrong. Sure. And in their wanting me to be wrong, it was just them wanting to glorify themselves in the midst of them wanting me to be wrong. And I'm like, whoa, let's back up real quick. Let's time out on that. Let's just dissect this correctly. I got no problem with owning up to my part, but let's make sure that we are seeing this correctly. Then there's those moments where I recognize, this is 100. Yeah. It's on me. Right. And I can come to my children and say, you know what, daddy's sorry.
Yeah.
Can you forgive Dad?
Yeah.
Because I said that. I yelled at you. I got upset. I did this, right? And so we balance those out. So we've got to be willing to draw poisons out, right? And then we've also got to be able to pour in antidotes. And those antidotes, as we know, definitely in the Word of God.
Yeah.
Definitely by the Spirit of God.
Yeah.
An antidote to things that can be generational.
Yep.
Right? Because if it's just starts with one person and it's there, might not be as strong of a thing. But when that joker 4 to 5 generations long up in that piece,
yes, yeah. Big time.
listen, that spirit got muscles.
It's got strong. That generational curse.
That joker got
100%.
muscles,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And the Bible says that's a strong man,
Mm-hmm.
and he got to be overpowered,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we've got to make sure we're discerning it and we're seeing it in ourselves. And then once again, the tribe mentality to see it in each other, right?
Yeah.
And to be willing
100%.
to be men of God. And I was going to say this earlier because you were talking about, that manhood and what real men are able to do. There's an element that has been a part of my walk with Christ that God will never let me loose myself from. It is a healthy man never moves from his sonship.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Because when we move from the son part of us, that's when pride comes in and say, I'm man. And that's why, whoa, back the
Your
truck up,
first
pump your brakes, you're doing 90 to 30.
Right.
Actually, if you never lose that you're a son,
That's
if
good.
you never lose that you're a son, if you keep the healthy son part of a man, that man is going to grow up healthy because at the core, there's a healthy son.
Yeah.
But when you remove the healthy son out of the core, then all you have is toxic man.
Mm-hmm.
If I can, something you brought up, and I'm just going to speak from a personal experience. So one of the things that my grandma, I remember my grandma always saying, it's like, oh, you've got that, you're going to have that form and temper. I didn't even know what she was talking
Yeah.
about.
Ooh, okay.
Like
That form and temper. Oh,
Form
yeah,
and
there it
temper.
is.
The form and temper.
Wow.
The form and temper.
Wow.
I'm like, why does she keep saying that?
Jesus.
And she's like, everybody got it. So my
Woo!
my dad's dad was in. I hope this is okay to share, but my dad's dad was an abusive alcoholic, and he abused my grandma. I never got to know him because he died in a car crash when my dad was 9.
Okay.
And what I've learned is that I searched for a long time because I do have elements of that temper inside me, and every once in a while it comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes out in my home, and I hate it because I feel like I lose everything that I worked so hard to gain: their trust, their not astonishment, but their pride in their dad. Oh, my dad.
They're all.
my
They're
dad-
all
my
of you.
dad's-
Yes.
And I feel like whenever I lose that, I feel like I throw all that away,
Yeah, I hear that.
and it crushes me more than anything.
Right.
And bro, and you guys can speak on this, but I dealt for that for so long because my dad, he was a great dad. He was at all my games. He took me. I mean, after work we'd go to we'd go to like cookie shops. We just hang out. My dad was awesome. Like he was a great dad. There was times I was angry because he would go with my brother, but now I'm like, oh, he just was trying to be a good dad to my brother too on a personal level, But I look back, I was like, man, did anything ever happen for me to get that anger? Like my dad never did anything to me. My dad never did. But you know where I got it?
Iniquity.
I saw it.
Yeah, man.
I saw him get mad and slam his fist on a VCR, punch a wall. He never took it out on me or my family.
Right.
But I saw him use his anger to destroy things, and then lo and behold, I've duplicated that.
Yeah.
And I see it when I see it duplicated in my kids, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah, it's tough.
And it's so hard to break that. Like, it may not be, listen, you may be watching this, and if you're trying to find, because I asked this question, where did this anger come from? It didn't come from anywhere. You just saw it. And because you saw it, that's how you think you're supposed to act out your emotions. And that becomes the way that you deal with it. And it's not supposed to be that way. That's just the way you learned it.
Yeah.
And, I'm working even now to try and, eradicate that and learn and get myself past that in a lot of ways. But
So the modeling that you're talking about, what you saw. So the modeling, that's a really good point that you just brought up. Thank you for being transparent. The modeling that you're talking about, though, is reinforcing something that is already on the inside of you, because we talked about generational curses, and the Bible talks about iniquity.
True.
Iniquity is sin that you inherit from your forefathers. You're born into the world with iniquity. When you're born, you don't violate a law, you don't trespass. You have iniquities though, and so like for me personally, like my father, in his lineage was alcoholism. So he knew something on the inside of me. If I feed it, it's going to take over. And he saw it. He saw it modeled incorrectly in his household, amongst his brothers and amongst his father. And he made a choice like you did. It stops with me.
Amen.
So he saw the model and did the anti-model. And then that anti-model became my model.
It is.
But he told me about it.
Right.
This is in our blood.
Right.
But I'm showing you something different.
See?
And
That's the end of it.
having that explanation helps too, because he didn't just keep it under the rug and not, like, we have to shine light on the things that want to operate in darkness in order to stop them from multiplying.
Yeah.
Because these sins that we inherit, they multiply in darkness when we don't talk about them.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
you know, I would even encourage you to go beyond the step of modeling something different for your children, but just tell them, hey, look, there are some things, like your grandmother, she don't know better, but she kind of cursed you. That form of anger is going to be on you. The difference in talking about it is, hey, look, there's something that's in our family that we're going to dismantle, and this anger. And I'm going to show you how to dismantle it, but you can't dismantle something that you haven't been explicit to say is there in the first place.
Yeah.
You got to call it out.
Got to be an exposure.
And be like, this is in us. But through Christ, though, we are more than overcomers. We are more than conquerors.
That's so good. That's so
That's
good. Amen.
Sometimes we want to try and not speak to it. But that's our most powerful weapon.
Yes, it is.
Or a place to blame.
Or like deflect. And you're like, no, this is in our lineage. We're going to not allow it to function and show where our strength comes from to overcome that thing, which is trying to continue on.
And Reggie, you said something in one of our, I think it was in one of our previous episodes when you talked about, you know, the power of life and death in the tongue. And you said a lot of times when we look at the power of life and death in the tongue, we'll only look at the life part and won't look at the death part.
Yep.
Right? We'll only look at the life part because it's like, oh no, God's got a life. So he's like, whoa, but hold up for a moment. There are some things in your life you need to speak death over.
Yes, sir.
Like what we're talking about. When it comes to this iniquity, when it comes to these issues, when it comes to these things that are want to pass, that's actually something you need to speak death over.
You will stop operating.
You can actually speak a curse over the curse.
Yes.
While releasing a blessing over yourself. No, I curse you. You will not function, right? And I love that you brought that up because in the midst of what you're talking about, we need to expose that for people because we'll read those scriptures and we'll lean only to one side.
Yep. And
don't realize that if God said it, he's God who is already the God of knowing the good and the evil. Mm-hmm. He already knows this stuff, right? And he gives it as a balance, but like you said, don't neglect the speaking death part.
Jesus operated, he cursed the fig tree when it wasn't operating as it was supposed to. He cursed it and kept it moving. He was like, yeah, you're with it from the root. You're not going to do nothing else. And he kept it moving.
Kept moving. They came back around, and they was all astonished. Like,
Jesus like, what you astonished about? You're going to do greater things, right? But it was about casting, and he talked about if you have this type of faith, you will speak to the mountain, it will be cast into the ocean, right? And so this is our inheritance. This is what he modeled because, again, he only does what he sees his father doing. Yeah. And when we see him modeling it, then now we should know how to act. Yeah.
I always replay every time I go by that scripture, and this is just for fun. Like I always think, y'all ever been in your house, you know, and you pick up like a flashlight, and that flashlight don't work, and you just crappy thing, you just throw it in the trash, or like something like that. I always wonder, I'm like, is that what was going on with Jesus? Like, was he like he expected there to be a snack? He expected there to be something on there to eat.
Did though.
He's like, boom, gone. And I'm like, I want, just in my head, I was thinking like, what was it really like walking with him? And were they like, geez, what'd that fig tree ever do to you? And they're like, yo, listen, man, I was hungry and that thing had to go. Like,
it did not. But the principles that he was given in that moment,
for sure,
dude,
boom, laid it on.
The principles,
yep,
that, and it's like in that moment they was flabbergasted.
100%.
But because he is forever and ever, so that means he was there before that fig tree was born, and he's there afterward. He knew exactly, and because of that, he's saying, I got principles. I gotta show y'all. But yeah, bro, there's times like you said, for fun. There's moments in time Jesus did some stuff. You like, Jesus, why you do that? I don't know, Jesus. That's a little suspect. But we love you and we trust you. But no, bro, this father figure thing, it's complex, and I know that we don't have nearly enough time to touch on every level and every angle and every layer. I get it. But if we can bless the people enough to know that for fathers that are out there, we love you and we want fathers to be strong. We want a community of fathers. You know, Women's Day and Mother's Day be one of the biggest celebrated days ever. Women come out of the woodwork with their dresses on, with their hats. We got bouquets, flowers. Father Day come by and we just be like,
Hey, can you have a grill?
Thanks. Go grill something. And then God bless you. And we roll on and we don't honor fathers the way the Bible honors fathers, right?
Yeah.
We don't honor fathers the way it does. And I understand many have messed up and caused all kinds of issues, but that still doesn't take away from the principle that the Bible honors fathers, and fathers are meant to be honored. And we need help in being honored. And it's not about pride. It's about us understanding our role and our function, right?
Yep.
It's our role and our function, because we are men and we are fathers and we have children and we are connected with men who have children, and we want to create a atmosphere that glorifies God. So
Amen.
It's good stuff, man.
And we'll let Reggie close it out, but remember this too. In molding, as we were talking, you're talking about molding and modeling. I thought about like a plant that produces toys or guns or guitars or cars or whatever, right? Yeah. So in this, what do? The person comes up with the design, and then they send off the plant, and the plant does what? Makes a mold, and then it is then duplicated. That's how we should think. Like, create a mold that you want to be duplicated in your kids, in your children, even in the people surrounding you, and be that mold. It may look like different than someone else. You may not have to be the athletic father who goes to the gym. That may not be your dad that does that. You may be the father that just prays at night before dinner and prays before bed, who loves your wife and who is kind and compassionate, and that's okay. Find the mold that God has for you and be consistent in molding that and duplicating that, so that your kids can fit in that same mold and duplicate what you show them.
Alec, you think I'm supposed to follow that? I'm not following that. We end right there. Well said.
Right. And that's good, man. That's good.
I love you guys, man.
No, bro, this is good. This is good. It's King Kier's King Connection, fam. Well, my man Alec Foreman, one more again, joining us on the podcast. God bless you. Once again, listen, I'm always gonna encourage you guys. Listen, if it blessed you, make sure you guys like this video. Make sure that you click that like, you click the subscribe. All right, Manu Forte Ministries, also Power My Testimony Ministries. You can find Alec Foreman. Don't you have a handle on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, and then the album and stuff like that on Spotify. So we're looking at creating a little podcast too. So the Followers Podcast.
Alec with a C.
With a C.
Not an X.
Alec, and then Foreman without the E.
Without the E, yeah. As much as I would love to be related to George Foreman, so I get a little bit of that drilling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, but please follow us, like us, and then share, because we are here to be a blessing. Have a good and great, wonderful day.
Bless you guys.